Good morning, everybody. Welcome to a Monday episode of The Uninformed Fan. We hope everybody had a great weekend. I am your host, as always, Tyson TRL Business Time. With me on the other side, Jeffrey off of the Schneid. Jeffrey, welcome to the show. Viewers, fans, worldwide, nationwide, welcome to the show. Let's discuss some sports. How was your weekend, Jeffrey?
That was a very docile opening. You know, you came in very Barry Manilow, very, ladies and gentlemen, happy Monday to you, and welcome to the Uninformed Fan.
Well, let me tell you why. So I was watching, I went to my parents this weekend, had a great weekend with the parents down there.
Shout out mom and dads everywhere.
Love spending time with them. You know, a lot of relaxing, little pool time, little hot tub time. But we watched one of the episodes, right? And I listened to my voice on the mic, and I'm like, ooh. That kind of sounds sexy, yeah.
The sultry soundings.
Yeah.
Nice and tough.
So I realized, I don't necessarily need to talk as loud. That this microphone is actually very, very good quality, and it comes through very nicely. So yes, I am on my normal hello voice.
I'm very confused though. Like, have you never watched an episode back before? Did you not know this about your microphone?
Well. No and yes, but
okay, cool. I just wanted to make sure.
There's a big difference though between listening to it via your computer speakers or your headphones versus listening through it on a Polk Audio soundbar, and I think that's the difference. Because of course we obviously review all of our episodes to see where we can improve on and the things that we could do moving forward. But on this particular occasion, we happened to listen to it on the big Polk Audio, and I was like, "Ooh, yeah, that felt good."
Like that.
Yeah, so this is the new this is the new voice.
I like it. It's
interesting. How was your weekend?
My weekend was pretty good. I mean, let's see, what did I do? I worked. I was off yesterday. Got a chance to sit down and hang out with one of my best friends who I haven't seen in a long time. Best man at my wedding. My boy Bobby Vera. Shout out to Bobby. Got to chop it up. Watched a little basketball last night. We caught the World Baseball Classic, and then his wife came and picked him up from Kitty's, as usually happens when people come hang out with Jeffrey at Kitty's.
It's funny when you said that on the group chat. You're talking about Bobby. I did not. I thought it was a different Bobby, and I was just like, why is he hanging out with this Bobby? No. But okay, that makes more sense. Yeah,
my boy Bobby. We grew up. Both went to school together. Both ended up playing baseball together. Traveled ball from a very young age. Both had small college offers to go play said sports at a few places, and we both decided instead of going there, we're just gonna take our bright futures money and go to Florida State University.
I never knew this. You had a scholarship?
We had a couple offers. I had Toccoa Falls. He had
for what?
St. Leo. I had Toccoa Falls.
No, in what sport?
So Toccoa Falls offered me for basketball, baseball, and golf, which I thought was absolutely insane for a D3 school to offer me 3 sports. And Bobby was offered for baseball. Bobby was a really good baseball player. Better than I was.
I didn't realize you had all this talent hidden in you.
I was also the lead in the school musical.
Well, hold on.
You ever seen The Music Man?
We'll get back to that, but let's go back to this. You had a full ride golf scholarship in college?
Well, so D3, everything's pretty much partially guaranteed. There's not a lot of full rides out there for D3, but yeah, they offered me for golf. Back then, I was shooting low 40s. I mean, what?
Low 40s?
Yeah.
Wait a minute. So you golfer. You got a basically a full ride scholarship with a +8 handicap?
Pretty much, yeah. You're talking about a really small D3 school in Georgia that was
struggling.
Whatever, yeah. But I had really good grades, and I was, involved in a lot of things, and so yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I didn't know that about baseball either. Did you play first base as well?
I played first, third, and pitched.
Nice.
All through high school. We were like we were a really good actually high school baseball team, even though we went to a small school. I mean, I graduated with 36 kids in my graduating class, so you can imagine the pool that we're pulling from in baseball. But as most private schools do, you get to a point where you're playing travel ball with all these kids. You're playing AAU, you're playing games every single weekend, and you end up pulling your boys in, and being like, listen, instead of you going over here and doing this, like, come over here, let's create a juggernaut. And so Central Florida Christian Academy, shout out to them, kind of. but we did that, and we actually, we played against, Zach Greinke and West Orange back in the day, Stephen Porter and a bunch of those guys. I remember we ended up playing West Orange on their senior night, and 3-1. So we were a small 1A school, they were a 7A, and Jeremy can tell you in high school athletics, when the 1As are hanging with the 6As and 7As, you're usually pretty good. We ended up losing that year in the regional final to a team named Warner Christian and a kid named Zach Brunning. I believe it was Zach Brunning. He ended up getting 1550 on his SATs and going to Harvard, but he was a pitcher and threw with both arms.
Oh, that's pretty rare.
It was crazy, yeah.
How long do you think we've known each other?
Let's see. 8 years, 9 years.
How many hours do you think that we've had socializing, drinking beers, and hanging out?
Oh, a lot. Yeah, absolutely.
And we had to start a podcast for me to dig this deep to learn a little bit more about you. That's amazing. Good stuff. Good stuff there.
Well, I'm just happy to share this with you and also with our viewers,
I'm just glad that 3,000 people are learning along just like me. Just learning along just like me.
Hey, shout out to all 3,000 of you. We appreciate you being here. And as Tyson Thomas would say, thank you for tuning into the Uninformed Fan.
That's right. Well, speaking of basketball, go ahead.
Well, real quick, mom and dad are subscribers now. So you told me before this episode started that I needed to watch my mouth and be careful with my language.
Well, it all started with Angelina.
A little bit more respectful.
It all started with Angelina. If you remember. She was watching the show with the little one, and she made a comment to Mike about how hey, it's kind of tough to listen around the little ones when they're dropping F-bombs all the time, and we did try to pull it back, and I think we did scale it back a lot. But yes, I was watching an episode with my parents, and the very first thing, we're both bouncing F-bombs off each other, and they both just kind of gave me a look, and I said, well, this is real talk. This is like on the core shop talk. But in all fairness,
I feel like in context as well too, there's nothing better than a little F-bomb slip here and there. You know what I mean? Like, I think, listen, that is, in my opinion, the best word that there is when it comes to curse words. It's very versatile. You can use it in a lot of different ways. So, yeah. Yes, that is correct, Jim.
So,
Christian is in dub.
Anyway, so back to the weekend. You mentioned basketball. Yep. We had some great tournament action going on this weekend. A lot of upsets. Big shout out to, oh boy, I lost it. I do believe it's Olivia Walker, 25 right now for she is, or he, or them, they, or whatever.
Whatever you identify as.
Whatever you identify as is leading the overall with a 99.2% bracket win rate. So great job, Olivia Walker. Keep it up. Looking forward to seeing how that shakes out. Obviously I was in second going into that, and I am down to I'm in shambles. I went from like the 99th percent bracket to the 47th percent bracket. It's just it's in shambles. It's all in shambles now. We had so many pardon me. We had so many upsets. We had Furman over Virginia. We had Princeton over Arizona. We had Farley Dickinson over Purdue. Excuse me. And it's interesting we talked about this Farley Dickinson over Purdue because as I was watching with my parents, they're Big Tens. They're still Illinois, very heavy on Illinois, so they do watch a lot of the Big Ten. They like the Purdue coach. They like the big kid that they have down there in Purdue. And my mom was getting a little salty about the Farley Dickinson calling their shot, basically saying the more I watch Purdue, the more I think that we can beat them. And they went out there and they shocked the world. So what is it? It's now two versus 151 chances of a number 1 seed beating a 16 seed in the men's AA tournament. So congratulations to those guys. They did get knocked out on the next round. However, a 16 beating a number 1 knocked out every perfect bracket. There are no more perfect brackets in the ESPN pool. To me, that thing should be worth like $10 million because I don't think since its existence it's ever happened, if I'm not mistaken. But a lot of big upsets. A lot of big upsets going on.
Well, you know how guaranteed it is to never happen, right? Do you remember a few years back when Warren Buffett decided to offer $1 billion to anybody who had a perfect bracket, right? All you had to do was give your email and your information to Quicken Loans, and let them be able to contact you and generate mortgages for you if you want it as well too. So talk about being brilliant and knowing exactly what you're doing. Shout out to that guy. He knows there ain't no shot somebody's hitting it. No shot somebody's getting a billy out of it either.
And he made millions selling the information as well. That's always one of my biggest pet peeves, right? You sign up for something like when we were at the rodeo, right? We signed up for Ram trucks to be on a rodeo. Next thing I know, I'm getting 45,000 spam emails a day. It's quite something. But it's just
as well too. He's got to block them though.
Yeah.
Report junk.
They just come to it. They just come from a different one now. They just dial from a different number. But it is amazing. So back to this bracket here. You know, all of the big boys are pretty much. Kansas is out. Kentucky is out. Arizona is out. Obviously, we just saw that, you know, Purdue is out. I mean, the number ones. Houston struggled. Houston was down by 10 in the first half before they ended up coming back and winning by 17. But that score was. I actually watched that game down at my parents' house, and that one was a little bit skewed because with like a minute to go, it was only a 5 or 6 point game. And it just got out of hand with the fouls and the free throws. Michigan State, Tom Izzo, showing that, you know, he can still put together a team to compete. What was your big takeaway from this weekend?
So things were going very well for me yesterday. Middle of the afternoon, I'm in first place in our bracket challenge. Everything's looking great and swell. And then of course, you know, Michigan State happens. Goes with that. I mean, listen, the Arkansas, Kansas, there's been a lot of these games where down the stretch, I feel like the officiating has gotten very questionable in the last minute and a half, 2 minutes. It's like they're just picking and choosing what they choose to call fouls and what they're deciding to let go. And the consistency of it to me, which I feel like it's been okay throughout the entire game, and then we get down to crunch time, it just becomes super inconsistent, would be my only takeaway from it. I do want to give a shout out to our producer, Jeremy. He's been on FAU all year, talking about how great of a year they've been having and so on and so forth. Now, obviously, they get a great draw with being able to, you know, first of all, beat Memphis, the first game of the tournament, but then also to draw Farley Dickinson after they beat Purdue, and they're moving on playing Tennessee now in the Sweet 16, which that might be the end of the road for them. But that's neither here nor there. My takeaways, listen, Cream's still kind of rising to the top, you know, if you will. But some of the upsets have been absolutely incredible, right? Princeton beating Arizona. When you go through that, I mean, it's kind of shaken out the way that I thought that it would, which is, you know, an Alabama-Houston final is what I have. The bottom of my bracket is just absolutely insane.
The West is just out of control. Yeah, I mean, the West and the East, that lower bracket.
And UCLA in my Final Four. So UCLA still has a shot. They do play Gonzaga, so a nice West Coast game that we'll see coming up in a few days as well. I think the tournament's been electric, though. When you look at all of the upsets, when you look at the way everything's gone down, some of the big boys getting knocked off, some of the blue bloods moving on, I think it's had everything that you hope for and want for in a tournament. I also do want to give a shout out to University of Miami as well, too. You know, regardless of my feelings about you, congratulations on making the Sweet 16. To you guys played a great game against Indiana. I didn't think you would make it past Drake, but I usually tend to pick anything that says Drake in it anyway because it's one of my guys.
Oh my God!
But
you'll never hear me congratulate Miami. Well, I just hit him up on the DMs, bro. I mean, I know he's watching, but you know, you don't have to give Drake a shout out for free. That's okay.
Why?
Anyway,
one of the greatest rappers of our generation.
Yep. Yes, you're right. I think Princeton. I mean, we got to talk about Princeton a little bit here, right? I mean, knocking off number 2 Arizona as the 15th seed, knocking off 7, you know, and dominating Missouri. I mean, 15. Yeah. I mean, dominate Missouri, and now they go against Creighton. I think Princeton has a great shot to get to the Elite 8 here, and then they are going to go up against Alabama. Which, again, that could be... Well,
you're assuming Alabama's going to beat San Diego State.
I am assuming that. You're absolutely right. Because as you as well, I do have Alabama playing for a national championship. And, you know, as an SEC guy and a Florida guy, that really cringes me to have to put Alabama's basketball into anything.
Right.
You know,
because SEC people are so synonymous with not rooting for the SEC in anything. It's really unbelievable, you know?
I didn't. Outside of football, you'd be surprised. You would be really surprised. But yes, I mean Florida, we're just in shambles, so it doesn't really matter anyway. But yes, that the East bracket is just out of control. You got a 9 and a 4, a 3 and a 7. You got an 8 and a 4, and then the 3 and a 2. So the bottom side of the West bracket has definitely played out as expected. I think we're in for some more fireworks here. It's kind of what we talked about from the very beginning. We said that, this year there was no clear cut, just dominant teams. Obviously we had Houston and Alabama as the only two that really looked dominant, especially as number ones. And I do believe that they are the only two number ones left. The other two number ones are absolutely gone. Kansas and Purdue are out of there. It's going to make for a nice little weekend. Shout out to all the boys that came down to Orlando, down in the Amway Center for coming down to O-Town and representing. It's going to be a
great turnout.
Yeah, it's going to be a great weekend. So a lot of good stuff coming up with NCAA. Glad that we're getting the action that we wanted. We're getting the upsets that we wanted because, as everyone knows in America, the underdog is usually who everyone roots for because everyone loves to see a little Cinderella story.
They do.
They do.
When will the glass slipper, crack? When does the clock strike midnight? When is the dream over and no longer a reality? Can we talk about your shirt today? I really like that. Is that from The Rock or is that like a Chicago Bulls shirt?
That is the Rock Under Armour collection.
So we did have this argument yesterday, and I think I was telling you about it before about like guys you wouldn't want to see in like a street fight or a brawl or like an alpha male type of a thing. The Rock was very high up there. I know another guy really liked Brock Lesnar, but I feel like The Rock, Mike Tyson, like those guys like that, you wouldn't want to see them in a dark alley,
No, I wouldn't want to see.
Rock.
I wouldn't want to see anybody that has nothing but time and professional money to train their bodies to fight and to build. I wouldn't want to see anybody. As a matter of fact, though, I wouldn't want to fight anybody. I don't go out looking for fights, and I think we talked about this a little bit more. Some of the MMA guys, it's just not worth it. Let's just say you do get in a fight with one of those guys, and let's say you do land a punch, right? A chin punch, just an absolutely punch that you shouldn't land. You knock the guy out. He lands. He hits his head on the curb and dies. Now what? You're going to jail. It's just not worth it anymore, man. There's too many crazy people out there. Too many crazy
Somebody
people.
who's been to jail multiple times, you don't want to go.
Well, speaking of jail, let's move on to the NFL. We did have some free agent signings going on here. Brandon Cooks going to the Dallas Cowboys. I think that's a great signing for Dallas. I'm pretty sure it was on a small discount. But gives Dak another weapon that he can choke in the playoffs to. Kudos to them. I think that I think it's a good pickup. I mean, what happens with it, I don't know. I would love to get Marcus Buffington's take on it. Marcus, if you're in the chat, please type in there. Let me know what you think about this take here.
Or just hop in the Discord.
Well, yeah, we yeah. I don't want to get him in trouble.
I do want to say that the first thing that I thought of when I saw Brandon Cooks going to Dallas was that's going to be a great weapon for Cooper Rush. Just in terms of, you want to surround guys like Cooper Rush with as many weapons as you possibly can so that they can, excel, especially when Dak inevitably gets hurt or, just sucks again or whatever happens. I do think the Stephon Gilmore pickup is pretty big as well, too. When they're starting to take care of that back end of their secondary, I think that's a huge pickup. You got to be really competitive in that division. We see that division. You got Giants, you have Redskins. I don't. They're not the Commanders. I don't care. The Giants, the Redskins, the Cowboys. Listen, and then of course you got Philly. So the reigning NFC champions. So that's division's poised to be very, very competitive once again. One of the other big defensive back signings that I saw that happened as well too was Chauncey Gardner-Johnson from your University of Florida Gators going to the Detroit Lions within your division. I think that's a great pickup for Detroit, considering what their secondary was last year, how bad we knew it was. Every game they had to win was going to have to be a shootout pretty much. Now if they can just kind of start loading up in the front to try to get pressure on the quarterback, you already have a guy like Aiden Hutchinson. You bring in another defensive lineman. Maybe I don't know, Will Anderson Jr. or maybe a Jalen Carter.
I don't think they're up that high in the picks, are they?
They are. They have 2 picks.
Up that high?
They have 2 picks in the top 10, I believe.
No.
I want to say.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
They have number 6.
And
18. 6 and 18.
I guess
if
you put them together, that'd be an average of 12. Anyway,
Detroit keeps making moves, and like I said, especially with Aaron Rodgers going out of the NFC North, this division is up in the air. And Detroit,
is that going to actually happen though?
I believe so. He can't stay there.
What are we doing? Are they waiting for like draft day, or what are they?
Well, I think that the Green Bay Packers are going to hold their guns because, let's be honest, they hold all the ammunition. The player said that he wants to go there. The team says that they want him there. They've already started to make the plans around him. I mean, Green Bay has him under contract. I mean, they hold all of the cards. Okay, well, you don't want to go play for us anymore? That's fine. We don't want you either, but we want 2 first-round picks, and we want David Putney because we feel like it. And I think that that's exactly what the Green Bay Packers are going to do. I think that
they want
David Putney.
Who's David Putney?
Oh, my goodness, dude. There's no way you're not going to get that draft day reference.
I've only seen that movie one time.
Oh, okay. Well, for all the fans out there, they know what that is.
I don't. Oh, you talking about the return specialist?
Yes. He needs a punt returner.
Okay.
But I think that's exactly what's going to happen. I think that the Green Bay Packers hold all of the cards. They're not going to just let him go. They probably are looking to get a serious haul for him, and rightfully so. If he's just coming off the MVP, there's been some insiders saying that maybe a 2nd-round pick or a 2nd and a 3rd. Absolutely not. The guy last year, was it last year or the year before, was the MVP of the league. He's proven that he can still perform at a top level. Why would you let him go for anything less? You have him under contract. If he doesn't want to play, great. Okay, then you just kept him out of the league, and now you don't have to face him. I don't see why the Green Bay Packers would cave to anything less than what they absolutely want for him. I just don't. You're not going to get a Brett Favre type where you get a 3rd-round pick for him. No, not going to happen. That's different this time around. Brett Favre was towards the tail end of his career. Aaron Rodgers is still performing at one of the highest levels in the NFL. The Green Bay Packers should absolutely get everything that they want for him.
Yeah, but you're also trading a $60 million contract this year, too.
Who cares?
Like, let's be self-aware about the shitty contract that you signed this guy to that you're now trying to get rid of.
But they're under cap, and we, as we talked about before, what is the cap anyway? I mean, we had teams that were $55, $60 million over the cap that all of a sudden are signing $35 million a year quarterbacks and are $5 million under the cap somehow. It's just funny money. They just keep pushing it to other years. I mean, hell, the Bucks are even like $5 or $6 million under the cap now after all of their wonderful signings. It's just funny money to me. You could just push it out. You push it out 3 or 4 years. Push it. Just keep pushing it. Why bother paying it? I mean, it's just like a credit card almost. So it's just, but they come knocking for their money. But unfortunately, this other one just keep pushing it out. I mean, if you never have to pay it, if it never comes to collect, what does it even matter? Just keep pushing it out. Yeah, we're $100 million over the cap, but you know what? Cap's going to go up $20 million this year, so really 80. Hey, you 3, we're going to do this, and the rest of them, we're just going to push it back the next 3 years. We'll deal with it then. I don't know. I think that don't get me going on this. But yeah, I'm not going to get one. But
that shirt is a really nice blue, by the way.
Thank you. Then we had Adam Thielen getting re-signed at 32 years old to a 3-year contract to the Carolina Panthers.
Yep. I saw him, and they're looking at DJ Shark as well, too, probably bringing in for Carolina. So,
I mean, Carolina, the defense that they had last year was obviously top-notch at times. They definitely showed flashes in the pan. The offense was the biggest issue that they had. Now they're giving up a ton of picks, but they do have a pretty strong roster already. I'm very, very curious to see. What do you mean, no?
All the good players they had on offense, they traded.
Who'd they trade? Well, they traded Deontay Foreman and DJ Moore.
And Christian McCaffrey.
Well, they traded him last year when they still beat the Bucks. I mean,
yeah, but I'm just saying, like you look at their roster's not good.
Okay, but they still beat the Bucks.
Adam Thielen is their best wide receiver now.
So far, we don't know what they're going to do in the draft. That's what I was getting ready to get at. I think that the building blocks are there. I'm not saying Carolina's going out and competing for the division, but I don't think they're in a complete shutdown, rebuild everything mode. I think they're about 1 or 2 years away, and we'll see what they do with this year's draft. And unfortunately, they gave away next year's draft picks, but we'll see what they do in the draft. Thank you very much, Chicago.
That's a fine take. I don't see it in Carolina. I don't understand their vision. I don't understand exactly what they're trying to do. You give away your offensive weapons that you have. Yes, you have Brian Burns. You got some good linebackers as well too, and Thompson and some other guys. I don't know, man. I don't see it.
One thing that we haven't really even talked about is who we think that they're even taking. Do you think that they know?
I think that they're taking Anthony Richardson.
But that's if they do take Anthony Richardson, would that not be even more of like question marks about why would you give up all of this to go for a number one that you probably could have had at 9?
Well, I don't know if they've had a solid plan ever since they traded for the number 1 pick and said, "Oh, we're still open to trading back and collecting more picks." Like,
well, that is a good point.
What do you mean? You traded for the number 1 pick, and you're like, "Oh, but if you want to trade us for the number 1 pick, we'll do that too."
Yeah,
like,
we're interested in getting some draft capital back.
What are you doing exactly? I think Frank Reich probably thinks that he can mold Anthony Richardson into being an amazing player. If it's not Anthony Richardson, I will say I do think that it's going to be C.J. Stroud, one of those two. But I think that the upside of Anthony Richardson is going to be too much. I don't think Frank Reich has been great as a coach. Can't believe he got another job. Decisions are questionable. Let's see what happens.
I can't wait for it, because if they do take Anthony Richardson, man, I think, if you're a Carolina Panther fan, you have to just be scratching your head at this point.
You guys have never had a number 1 pick for UF, have you?
Are you referring to me as the Bears, or me as the Bucks, me as the Panthers?
I said you guys have never had a number 1 pick for UF.
Oh, I don't know. Probably not.
Yeah, he could be the highest drafted Gator ever.
Timmy Tebow should have went number 1, but whatever.
Number 1 in God's draft, I can tell you that.
He is an amazing human. Speaking of some amazing humans across the globe, did you tune in a little bit to the World Baseball Classic this weekend?
Absolutely.
You want to give me a little recap of what happened? Because obviously I did not.
Phenomenal. So USA, and I'll just say this from the USA point of view. So USA played Venezuela, led by guys like Ronald Acuna on that team. They're down in the bottom of the 8th inning. Trey Turner steps up, grand slam, puts us up, go on to win the game. Roll that into yesterday. They play Cuba. Right, and Cuba ends up pretty good team, but they're in the semifinals before the finals start in a few days, and they absolutely rolled over Cuba. I think at one point I looked up, it was 13 or 14-2, just absolutely a show. Now,
well, hold on, one second here. So with the Cuba team,
yes,
let me ask you a question.
They've all asked for asylum already.
Are these players that actually live in Cuba, or are these players that have defected from Cuba and are playing in the United States?
No, these are all players that live in Cuba.
Okay, all players that live in Cuba. That was going to be my question, because it would be very, very interesting to me to find people that have defected from a country but now also representing said country in World Baseball Classic.
So it's interesting that you mentioned that, because there is a guy for Cuba who was born in Cuba. His name is Randy Arozarena. An incredible baseball player. He's been amazing for the Rays. Just signed a big deal, actually. But he's playing for Mexico. And he was born in Cuba, grew up, was a great baseball player in his early teenage years. He wanted to try to go to some camps and try to, progress his career, get noticed by people. Cuba pretty much shut it down, said it's not going to happen. Now, he could have floated to the U.S. He was worried that if he did that, he'd either get intercepted and taken back, or Cuba would work something out to send him back there. So instead, him and his family got on a raft, and they floated over to Mexico. And so he's been a Mexican resident for the past 10 years or whatever it is. And just recently, this past year, he appealed to the president of Mexico via social media, asking him if he could please grant him citizenship so that he could represent Mexico in the World Baseball Classic. Obviously, he does. Mexico is playing in the semifinals tonight, and they are led by Randy Arozarena. So
it's a good story.
Really, really, yeah, really great story. Incredible. I'm sure it'll be made into some kind of a Hallmark movie or something going forward. And I look forward to seeing Randy take it on the U.S. and maybe, I don't know. I feel like storybook stuff like that sometimes ends up coming to a peak, and we see some amazing happen. He did make a catch against Puerto Rico to win that game up against the wall to basically end the game. That was incredible as well. Really, really cool story. And this is why we love the World Baseball Classic. Now, the cause of the World Baseball Classic, right? And we'll touch on these real quick. Obviously, Edwin Diaz celebrating with his team, ends up rupturing his patella tendon, probably done for the entire year. Okay, Jose Altuve, while he's batting, takes one off of his wrist, breaks his wrist. He's out 6 to 8 weeks. Okay, Nolan Arenado, we'll see what happens with that. He did get hit in the hand last night. He did exit the game. We hope everything comes back clean on the X-rays, and I'm sure we'll find out that news coming up very shortly. I want to say this:
didn't Freddie Freeman get hurt as well?
I'm sorry?
Didn't Freddie Freeman get hurt as well?
I don't know who Freddie Freeman is. As a Braves fan, I've never heard that name before in my life. We don't talk about Freddie Freeman.
Yes, we do.
If you've seen, we don't talk about Bruno either. Listen, this could all happen in spring training. Okay, like everybody, oh, why are they playing the World Baseball Classic? And the fact that the USA is rolling out Adam Wainwright as their #1 ace to me is absolutely fucking egregious. I'm sorry, Mom and Dad, I apologize, but this gets me a little ticked off. The reason you would not want to represent your country and the chosen profession that you have, is absolutely insane to me. Listen, if they had a World Cup for waiters, right, and the U.S. asked me to participate, I'm not saying, oh man, I might miss out on a shift or two at work. I'm going. You know what I mean?
Well, you're also not making $40 million a year at work either.
What does that have to do with anything?
I think it has a lot to do.
It's just money.
It's I agree. It is. There's a lot of people.
Look at that. Sold out crowd last night of 35,779 people in Miami. And our executive producer just said that Arenado will play in the final, so he's okay. So thumbs up for that.
Thumbs up for that. And I think everybody's rooting for the United States. Just everybody has their own take on it, man. Everybody has their own take.
What's your take on it?
My take is whatever the players choose. I mean, that's up to them. I think that we already spoke about it. It's a huge risk to the overall goal of baseball. I think in baseball season, if freak injuries do happen, but I would have to imagine as well, like you mentioned Altuve getting hit on the hand, Arenado getting hit on the hand. That would be one of my biggest concerns. You're also having amateur pitchers throw at you. And amateur pitchers that still break, I would assume, touching 90 miles an hour on their fastball. Not necessarily the command that the Major League Baseball players have. I mean,
I'm sorry. So your argument is that
I didn't say an argument.
Who are representing their countries are worse than the players who are pitching in spring training, who they're just testing out to see if they can play.
Well, not all of them going up against live action against those guys either. The testers. It's not live action. Well, they're not all live action. That'd be like bringing out Charlie Wild thing from the Cleveland Indians and putting Nolan on at the plate. That's just not happening. But again, back to what you're talking about. I think it's a player's decision. I don't.
Yeah, well, I don't. The players. You guys are a bunch of punks.
I don't doubt anyone's loyalty to the United States. Again, it's a big risk for somebody that's going to go out there for a potential $30,000 paycheck. And I'm not sure what happens if they get hurt. I'm sure that they still get paid from the MLB side. But I mean, if you're on, let's just say that you're on a contract year, this is the year of your contract, but this also aligns with the World Baseball Classic, and you do get hurt. I mean, that could affect your financials for the rest of your life. Or if it is a career injury that you get on a contract year. I think that there's other, variables and things that go into it. So I support whatever decision a player wants to make. Would it be cool to go out there and represent your country? Absolutely. Why would you not? But then you also have, But then you also have not only major league players, but professional athletes that don't agree with everything that happens in this country, and they don't want to be a beacon of light. To say, hey, look at us, we're United States, because they don't agree with it, or they use that to get their message out in different ways. So whatever a player chooses, like I said, I'm not in that position. I don't know all of the risks / rewards. It would be kind of cool, to win one for the Gipper, as they say. But on the same token, if they choose not to, I'm not going to sit there and blast them and say that they're un-American and that they don't care about patriotism in America because they don't play in the World Baseball Classic.
I will. You're not American. You don't care about patriotism.
Well, speaking of patriotism, in Florida this weekend, we had the Valspar tournament with the PGA down there. Had some very, very interesting weather. Nice little cold front come in. We had some up and down, which pretty much emulated Jordan Spieth's game all week. It was very nice. I did watch a little bit of that as well. And to watch Jordan out there hit a bad drive, hit a birdie, then just hit a terrible drive, hit a good... It really reminded me a lot of my own game, where you have a nice, beautiful hole, you hit 2 great shots, birdie, then you get up on the next one and you hit your drive 50 yards to the right. It was nice to see a little bit of that variation in there. Shout out to Taylor Moore for his first ever PGA Tour win. That was a pretty crazy ending that we had at the very end on 18. It was a good, very, very interesting 18th hole.
Absolutely, yeah. And listen, that 18th hole going into the wind there, you're trying to get the ball all the way back, otherwise it's going to fall off the false front. What a terrible feeling to have that shot. Obviously, Jordan had his opportunities. He misses the birdie putt on 17 that would have drawn him even. And then Shank, which is an interesting name for a golfer, hits his ball on the left. It ends up against a tree on 18. All he's got to do is par to get home and to force a playoff. He has to hit lefty, right? And he actually makes pretty good. He made good contact lefty.
Too good of contact.
Puts it over on the right approach shot. Unfortunately,
hit that false front.
Either Jordan or Shank, and then they both missed the putt, and then Jordan, of course, misses the tap-in par putt to make a bogey to drop me from first place to second place in our golf group. So, here we are. At least the USA won.
I didn't see that. I just saw him come back with like a 3 or 4 footer for bogey. That was a how long was the original par putt?
3 feet, 4 feet.
Wow, and he missed it that bad.
He yanked it left.
It's good.
No way. I'm like, no way he drops to third and takes away my second place. There's no shot, bro. And of course it happens. It is going to be interesting this week. So just to give everybody a heads up, your Gap Wedge Wednesday segment, we'll probably try to do it tomorrow, I'm going to assume. The reason being is that we want to get you guys the information before the tournament starts, and it is match play this week, and tournament is going to start at like 7 or 8 a.m. on Wednesday, and so you want to make sure that you have all your picks in, make sure that you have everything roaring ready to go for this tournament, because match play is a great spot to make money, and the guys have done very, very well in the past. They did pretty well this week. They had some guys that were up there in terms of Jaeger, and some other guys who did well. So I'm very much looking forward to it. We will try to knock something out. Hopefully tomorrow, we'll try to get that done for them.
Yeah, we'll definitely see what's going to, the early Wednesday morning tee time is definitely what's throwing us off. But yeah, like you said, we're going to try our best to get that information out to you. We have no timetable yet. We're kind of waiting for the pairings, which come out at 12 o'clock today. And then We'll see how fast the boys can put that into their system and pump it back out. We'll definitely have something out somewhere, whether it's a separate show, but we'll definitely get that out. We'll make sure you're following on Twitter. We'll definitely put it out exactly of what we're going to do there. But yeah, kind of like what you said, did you say something about the Valspar is just kind of an interesting tournament for the PGA in general, because it feels like one of those one-off ones.
It does, and I just like the way the course looks. Like if you watched that tournament on TV yesterday, right?
My dad said the course looks like shit.
It looks terrible, right?
It looked like Metro West.
Yeah, how do you go from like Bay Hill, the Players Championship, and then it's like, okay, yeah, we're gonna go to Valspar now and play on a cow pasture, and like the greens are completely browned out. Like I know, listen, we haven't had rain in a while. it's we're
Flo-
actually going through it in Florida. We need rain.
Florida
Like
weather
it
has
is to the
been very
it's
very crazy lately.
we need some rain. We're not getting it. It's a problem. But just the way the course looked, I thought was just terrible. Browned out all over the greens. You're hitting the ball in fairways, and it looks like there's no grass on the fairway. You're hitting out of mud. You know, I just
But the greens
it
look
was
nice.
yeah.
The green, yeah. So
Don't do that, okay?
Oh, for those of you who missed it,
Greens are perfect.
we played Metro West the other week, and you know golf in
One of my favorite
golf in
layouts.
Central
I love
Florida. The course layout is great. Golf in Central Florida is just out of control right now. I don't know if it's because of spring break. I just don't know what. But you know, one of the cheaper rounds is $85 a round. So we played that at Metro West, and the fairways you couldn't even play in any bunker because they're redoing all of the bunkers. So first of all, you can't if you hit in a bunker, it's automatic dropout. But you're dropping out to a hard pan, to a chunk of dirt, or maybe even some more sand out there. The only thing good about the course was the greens, and it's just mind-boggling to me of what they're getting. I mean, we're paying $85 a round, and you're hitting in the middle of the fairway into a patch of dirt. I mean, so that was the reference that we come back. But the greens
were great.
But the greens were great. But the greens were great, and that's kind of the reference that we are getting at there. It was really really an interesting round.
Well, the worst part too is that like I hit a bunch of bunkers, and as
Every
a guy
bunker.
who for some reason I usually hit a great flop shot, right? It's like a repertoire in my bag. I have a great flop shot. I do. Don't look at me like that. But when you're taking it out of a bunker and where you're dropping it is just dirt, you know, it's off of a tight lie. It's very tough to hit those flop shots short-sighted as well. So,
And you had plenty of practice that day.
I had a lot of
It was
practice.
pretty much every hole.
Every time I'm like, oh, look, we have a 20-yard over the bunker with no green to work with. Every single hole.
As if we didn't have enough exciting things going on this weekend, we had a great race in Formula One this week, and I know that you didn't catch it all, so we're going to kind of bring in Jeremy here a little bit to chime in every once in a while. But what a great race that we had. We had Checo that, you know, won from the start to finish, basically, with the number one pole position. Max Verstappen comes back from 15th to second, which we're going to touch on that a little bit. And then Alonso had a little yo-yo on third. With getting his position taken away and coming back, and to point out what you're just saying, how so Max Verstappen, which when he lost his gearbox and had to start 15th, me and my cousin were like, hey, this is great. This is great for the sport because the Red Bull car is so far ahead of all of the other cars. So it was really like, we're going to get to see some racing, and racing we did. I texted him and I said, I said he'll be in fifth probably by the 25th lap. It took him 16 laps to get into fifth. That's how fast. But you got to also remember, so Checo's out front, but he's passing all his cars, so he's getting DRS pretty much every other lap, which the lead car isn't. It was crazy, man. It was a crazy. He just zipped right up. There's nobody touching the Red Bull cars. There's nobody touching the Red Bull cars. It's going to be one of those years where it's just going to be complete domination. Checo led from the entire Alonso. I mean, watching Max Verstappen pass Fernando Alonso looked like Alonso was sitting still. The teams were not even defending their positions against the Red Bull car because they knew that they had it. They knew that they couldn't. Which brought up the question to me and my cousin. It was just like, is Red Bull cheating?
That's what I'm saying. Like, how is this possible?
I mean, we don't know. Nobody knows. Jeremy, instead of typing it, just chime in, buddy. Just chime in. Take your mute off mic, and then chime in.
All right, I'll admit this. I wasn't in F1. The other night, I did start watching the F1 series, so I got into it. So I watched the entire race yesterday, and I saw this. They said that the DRS for Red Bull is giving them 12 to 14 more miles per hour than any other team, and it's not cheating.
I'm not talking about that part, you know, because that's just because their cars are like 6 miles an hour faster to begin with. Everyone always gets DRS, which, you know, increases usually between 6 to 8 miles an hour in the certain zones. But this is a street course which had a ton of DRS, which allowed this overtake to happen. But just the Red Bull cars in general, it's just it's mind-boggling. There's nobody close. It's you're racing for third, and as a Ferrari and a Mercedes and these other cars. Aston Martin is coming up now, which we talked about, the being the third car. If Lance Stroll didn't have the brake issues, which we think he had, I mean, it would have been Red Bull 1-2, pardon me, Aston Martin 3-4. It was Aston Martin is blowing people away. Pardon me. As we saw with Alonso, getting third relatively easy. Now, Alonso also had a 5-second penalty because he didn't line up his car right on the starting grid. Pardon me 1 second.
He also, if you think about this, the Red Bulls finished 1-2, and Verstappen kind of threw it to his teammate and went for it on the last lap and got the fastest lap to retain the championship.
He didn't throw anything to his teammate. He stuck it in his teammate's arse.
That's what I was trying. I was trying to be nice about it, but yeah. That's what he did. And when they asked him afterwards, he goes, "Oh well, I figured it was the last lap. I would just go for it." And Which
if you look to the lap before, which we were talking about, me and my cousin throughout this race, because I'm still learning about this, but there's also battery usage, right? So they can actually conserve their batteries to have slower lap times to be able to push harder on another lap. And we were talking about it. He asked about the lap time. Max asked about the lap time when they said Checo. They told Checo, first of all, and this kind of goes into Checo not even trusting Red Bull anymore. They told Checo, hey, man, you can kind of lay off and go for it. And his first thing that he said, he goes, is Max laying off of it? And they were like, he goes, well, then why am I going to lay off of it? Because he felt like they were going to allow Max to get closer to him, which probably was the case. And then when Max realized he wasn't going to be able to catch him, he asked the team, what's the fastest lap time? They responded back, we're not concerned about that, Max. He responded back, well, I am, because he wanted that lap time to get another point. And it seems to me that it's going to be a two-headed race between these two. But yes, so then you saw the lap before his very last lap. He backed off. He was hanging around 4.7 seconds. He backed off all the way to like 5.6, 5.7. And when he hit that rolling start on the last lap, he let it all out on the table. Took the fastest lap from Checo, which again kept Max in the lead by 1 point. If he wouldn't have had that, Checo would have been leading the points, which Checo has never led the points in his entire career. And it just goes to show you, and I don't mind racing, okay? Because at the end of the day, they gave Checo the green light to push versus, laying back. But it just makes it very hard to root for Max. He just seems like a douchebag, man. And it's very, very hard to root for that guy. And he's probably going to go down one of the best F1 drivers ever, which, as a fate of Team Red Bull, we're Team Checo first. We're Team Checo first. He just seems like a douchebag. And then he didn't even pull his car off into the placement. He went straight to the pit row. He wasn't satisfied with second, so he didn't even go to the podium place for the car. He drove his car into the pits and then walked over. It was a very, very amazing to watch it just unfurl. He's such a little baby. It just makes it.
How old is he?
I don't know. It's got to be like 20 something, 25, 26.
Yeah. I mean, I watching him throughout the episodes and all the years of whatever, he's always seemed very
entitled.
I don't know what the word is. Yeah.
He's 25.
I think douchey was a good word.
Yeah, well, his father was an F1 racer as well, so he's been in it his entire life. So he's probably been coddled his entire life, and rightfully so. Though the guy is a badass driver. He's like I said, he's probably going to go down as one of the best drivers to ever step into a car. But I mean, give me a break, man. Just tone it down a little bit. I'm not saying that you had to lay off and not get the fastest lap, okay? Because what's the big deal? Whatever, you got it. But I don't know. Outside of that, Fernando Alonso getting the third place, and then to go to the podium, be showered with champagne, everything, only to be told to go back that you're going to be assessed a 10-second penalty. They actually did strip him of the third, gave it to George Russell, and then 10 minutes or so later on the appeal, they overturned their own decision. They appealed.
The appeal didn't come out until 1 a.m. The actual thing about him getting third came out at 1 a.m. So no one knew about it. It was in the middle.
Well, it was from what I saw via the twit. It was kind of assumed that the FIA was going to give it back to him. Me and my we're just like, what are you doing? First of all, this happened so early in the race. It happened with like 35 laps to go. So if the stewards really had a problem with it, they should have been investigated right then and there. And then at the end of the race, if there was any question that he might get assessed this penalty, they should not have gone through with the procedures until they made a decision. What kind of backwards asinine decision do you let somebody go up, celebrate a third place finish, then when he comes down and say, nah, we decided you're not going to get it because your jackman touched the car before you were allowed your choice. Wow, that says boxing feels all over it. This has Max Kellerman sitting in the back talking about a judge's scorecard right here. I mean, it's just crazy to me. Outside of those things, another big takeaway is McLaren just being an absolute dumpster fire as one of the top teams. It's just, I mean, they can't get out of their own way. You had Oscar Pistorius on 15th. It's just, and then the other one, Lando Norris at 17th. They're not even close. Like I said, if Lance Stroll didn't have his mechanical issues, I fully believe he would have been 4th. Ferrari, 6th and 7th. What Alpine looking really good as one of the low contenders, 8th and 9th. I had Ocon in my fantasy this week, who had a nice finish, which I brought that up as well. And Danny, if you're listening, I have some issues here because it won't show me. But how did I not win this week when I had all 3 pole positions on the podium, plus an 8th place finish? I don't know. It won't show me the breakdown on it, but again, it's Red Bull and versus everyone else. I think it's just Red Bull fighting themselves. I'm
going to say it right now. They're cheating.
I mean,
throwing it out there.
To have
Red Bull's cheating.
It's night and day.
Max Verstappen should be stripped of everything that he's ever won in his life because he's a cheater. You heard it here first on the Uninformed Fan.
All right. Well, I really look forward to the retrack and the recall on this.
My feelings don't care about your facts.
Good day on the track, though. There's a lot of disappointment, though. Kevin Magnussen and the Haas finally getting some points, moving up to 10th.
Haas.
Yeah, Haas. And if you remember, Clay talked about, look out for Kevin Magnussen on the street course, and that is his course. I watched it the whole time. I didn't think he was getting anywhere near it, but boom, he did. Like I said, there's a lot of good stuff, but a lot of disappointments in F1 between Ferrari, Mercedes. I think that and definitely McLaren. I don't see how you take that as anything but just utter disappointment. We are only 2 races in, but the basis of the car to be that far behind Red Bull, I don't know. I don't know. There's no way.
Lewis Hamilton.
What do you mean?
I mean, just nothing, huh?
It's the car. I mean, he actually moved up this week. He finished 5th. But he was actually on a medium set of tires versus George Russell on hards, and he couldn't catch George Russell. George Russell was actually laying back, and the team came through and said, we need to let Hamilton through. And he said no, because Alonso still has a 5-second penalty. And they said, no, George, he's already served the 5-second penalty. He goes, well, shit, I need to push then. And he actually increased his gap on Lewis Hamilton. But Lewis Hamilton also came out afterwards and said the car wasn't set up right this week, and that I think he said that was partially on him for what he wanted from qualifying and to the race. But Mercedes has a lot to figure out, and everyone is just looking back at Red Bull. I mean, Fernando Alonso in 3rd place was 20.7 seconds behind second place. 20.7 seconds behind.
You know what's crazy about Alonso, too, and this is what Jeremy just said as well, is that Alonso got his 100th podium.
It was his 100th podium, celebrated that, and then comes off and they say, no, you don't get your 100th podium anymore, only to give it back to him. It's, Fernando Alonso's had an amazing career, amazing tenure throughout the Formula One. And it's just going to continue now that he's got a good car in Aston Martin. And shout out to the Aston Martin team from coming from the depths, reaching up and taking this by the horns. Now, whether that's Red Bull coming over, because we did say that they got some Red Bull teams, team members over there. I don't know, but it's definitely Red Bull Aston Martin as of right now. With that being said, I do think we have a week gap, if I'm not mistaken. The Australian Grand Prix is going to be April 2nd. So we have the Australian Grand Prix. Then we have the Azerbaijan. Yes. And then May 7th, Benvenuto a Miami. Really looking forward to that one.
I'm looking forward to your outfits in Miami.
Really? How so?
I can't wait. I don't know. I just feel like it's going to be something with linen and bright, vibrant colors and, fantastic.
Robert Graham, if you're listening, I usually wear all Robert Graham stuff. It's a little loud, little out in your face, but it's pretty good.
Put it out there. I like that for you.
Yeah.
So I do want to say we just got confirmation. I just got confirmation. Tomorrow we are good to go. We will set a time for you, but we will be playing From the Tips on a Tuesday with Paul and Chad tomorrow. So make sure you have your notifications turned on so you can see when they go live. You can get your picks in and make sure that we have you set up and ready to go on Wednesday, ready to make some more money this week.
Did y'all make money last week?
Did who?
You.
Yeah.
Good. Good to hear.
I mean, I lost it all in the Magic, but, it's fine.
Still ride that Magic wave, baby.
Well, they're underdogs every single game, and, I just...
How far are we out of the playoffs here on the NBA?
About 10 games left till playoffs start.
Good. Then we can start talking about the NBA again. Because if you are questioning what we're talking about there's really no point in talking about the NBA until the playoffs are set because half the guys don't even try. Are the Lakers going to make the playoffs?
Well, them winning last night was a big upper for that. So
they are holding on to the 10th spot right now.
Yes,
but they're also in a 3-way tie. Ooh, and the Pelicans are only a half a game behind. Ooh, it's gonna get tasty. When is
very interesting.
When is your GOAT coming back?
Hopefully this year.
Oh, it's like that, huh? He might even be back for playoffs.
They hope he'll be back for the playoffs.
Okay. Oh, look at the Baby Bulls. Baby Bulls coming into the 10th spot with a 2.5 game lead.
Yeah, ever since honestly, Patrick Beverley has been a great
big spark.
Great signing. He's turned the team around with his leadership. Back home in Chicago, he's a Chicago kid. I've listened to a few podcasts he's been doing lately, and just happy for him. It's really good.
Absolutely,
Magic will not make the playoffs.
We talked about that between me and my cousin. We talked about who knew the Bulls just needed Pat Bev. I mean, holy moly, what a turnaround! To turn that team around the way that they have. I mean, they're now 20-16 at home, which is really, really good. For them, depending on what their record was before. The Toronto Raptors are a game behind there. They're looking really good. They could potentially get up to that 8th seed. They're only a game and a half back of that 8th seed.
Yeah, I think they will too. Trae Young's questionable as well. I'm not sure if he returned last night or the night before, but I did see that he might miss a little bit of time as well. Toronto is always just a question mark. You don't never know what's going to happen there.
Did Atlanta finalize? Didn't they hire Quinn Snyder?
I'm sorry?
Didn't didn't I see the Hawks sign Quinn Snyder? To be their coach?
Did they?
I believe so.
I didn't see that. Hold on.
Well, Jeremy, chop. We'll figure out what's going on there.
Quinn Snyder gets a 5-year deal. 5-year deal.
For the Hawks, right?
Correct.
Wow. And that's effective immediately?
That's great signing.
That was February 26th, so that's almost a month ago.
Yeah, I thought I saw something about that. I mean, like I said, I kind of halfway pay attention to the season, just bigger moves. But yeah, what a good signing for the Hawks. I mean, you got to figure with Trae Young and some of the other pieces that they have there. I mean, to be where they're at and still just not really relevant, it's got to be pretty disappointing.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah, very, very.
How locked in I am.
We'll lock in at the playoffs, right? That's when we lock in. All right. Well, Like we said, we're gonna be live sometime on Tuesday. It'll be a quick little segment. We might even just, or we might just compile some shows. I don't know. We'll pay attention to Twitter. We'll figure it out whether or not we're gonna be live Wednesday. Kind of just depends on what's going on. We'll probably move, obviously, the golf segment to Tuesday. We just don't know what time yet. We're gonna get with the boys, and we'll make sure that we get that tweeted out. Jeffrey, any final thoughts? Any last minute little tidbits?
I got nothing right now. Nothing at all.
He's got nothing. I got nothing. I appreciate everyone jumping in. Thank you very much. If you liked the video, like the video. Absolutely. Thank you very much for tuning in. We'll see you guys on Tuesday. Everybody have